If you look at the calls for reform on infringements, the government talked a lot about hardship and vulnerability, but what the legislation did was completely change all types of collections, be it people who are vulnerable in hardship or just people who can't pay, people who didn't pay. They said, oh, we need to change these three things for these most vulnerable.
Is it better to be reactive when these things happen, or is it better to be proactive? If you're going to be proactive, it's better to create solutions that are all encompassing and kind of provide the best possible solution if possible. That way, no matter what legislation comes out, for the most part, prepared for those changes.
In most cases, of course, there's that infringement issued. And then if you look internally, somebody needs an arrangement or requests a payment plan. That's a manual process. Then if that customer doesn't pay or they enter their arrangement and don't comply, which is actually more common than not, fines are then referred to FinesVictoria. So fines can be referred earlier if someone wants an arrangement, but the average council doesn't seem to do that. They seem to try internally. And that lodgment with FinesVictoria, that's a key moment where council says, 60 days of that infringement being issued, we've tried to get the customer to pay and they haven't. So now FinesVictoria will be nominated as the agency to follow that up. And there's that lodgment fee. So council's paying FinesVictoria upfront, $82.80, for them to then follow up with that fine. So once a fine is lodged at FinesVictoria, we hope that they collect all of the money. From the data that we could see, only about 30% of these infringements are paid within 12 months. So some councils are up to 40, 50, but some are far low, and the average seems to be between 30 to 40% of infringements paid within 12 months. Of that 300,000, about 90% of that expense is recovered in that 12 months, but about 210,000 is not. So that's money sitting, waiting for FinesVic to, once they collect, reimburse you. So not only have you got delayed cash, because you've had to front the fee for service to FinesVictoria, you're actually negative. It's important to measure this on a point in time basis because on average, they're not very good at collecting the money that you're owed as council.
This is almost like a spot audit for your council, thinking about what proportion of your fines are paid directly, what your success rate is with FinesVic as a proportion of all those fines, their setup time, court costs, and then, what actions you're currently taking.
This illustrates the concept of what our new infringements module does and how it helps Victorian councils is we actually help you bring a lot more of the management of the fine in-house. And you still have FinesVic as your backstop, but rather than the management of the fine being manual work, you actually just get the technology to manage the fine. The key principle here is council should be doing a lot more in the space of time before the fine is sent to FinesVic, because this is the area of time where you can fully recover the cash directly. Make it easy, lower the bar, people will pay you more. You can increase payment propensity by 10 to 30% just through automating that decision. It's no decision, it's just on autopilot, and then reducing all the paperwork. As well as that, there's customers receiving an SMS reminder before every payment. They'll automatically be followed up. So if something goes wrong, it can be corrected. And that give that customer the ability to change their payment information. The final piece for us was we had to do this better. We knew everything had to integrate seamlessly with the core systems because a third-party system doing this is just like FinesVic doing it in a way. You don't really know what's happening. It causes its own problems. So anything that happens here needs to integrate. So let's go through the process. So let's just pretend we got our fine on our dashboard. Looks like this. What this fine now has on is a QR code. And that QR code the customer can scan to pay. We've scanned that QR code. And as you can see, that QR code had the infringement number embedded in it. So we don't need to ask the customer the number. That just makes it easier. And we've also presenting what the current balance of the fine is. So let's do the simple one first. Pay total now. Very straightforward. Just takes them to pay by their card. Very simple, easy card number, expiry, and email. They'll get their email receipt. And of course, we plug into your processor. So whether you're with CBA, NAB, Westpac, or SecurePay, anyone else, the payments are processed. Where things get quite interesting is how do they selected this create flexible payment plan. First thing is it collects one piece of contact information from the customer up front. And I'm going to use my phone number here. So this just verifies that that phone number does exist, just because we don't want to get arrangement requests where we don't have a contact information. And so I've just got that text here on my phone and now I'm in. So this is calculated based off what council wants their rule to be. We allow customers to choose their start date, and that actually updates the payment schedule. I want my payments to start on the 1st. Notice how the amounts have recalculated. So weekly payment has gone up because there's fewer weeks between now and that target date. Set up. Then really, really clear payment schedule. Your team doesn't need to calculate this, and your team also doesn't need to post this to them. The technology does that via text message and email. Now the customer, all they have to do is link their payment information. As we saw, the mission is enable counsel to collect as many of the infringements themselves. We want to minimize that FinesVic referral to only the people that absolutely won't pay you, haven't tried, haven't been followed up. So we ran an early adopters program with Payble for rates, and we can support 3 new counsels in that program. The benefit for counsel here is there is no implementation and integration fees for the infringements module. The other benefit is you get to do something genuinely valuable from a business case perspective. You wouldn't do this if it didn't have a business case. We should assess that together. So you get a financial outcome, but you also get to do something that a lot of counsels aren't doing that you can be proud of. So I won't say you'll win an award, although some of the counsels for rates did. Other part of it is, as a business, you can imagine how much focus we put on making sure our early adopters succeed, right?
If there's one takeaway, go away and check how many of the fines are paid directly. And if it's not as many as you think, then there's definitely an opportunity.